Video gaming has come a long way from Atari's Pong. Remember that? Well, now it's a competitive sport, and parents are paying for their children to be tutored in hopes of becoming better players. But why? That's the big question. Family therapist Linda Mintle and CBN's digital expert Caleb Kinchlow joins us now to discuss this new trend. Linda, Caleb, thanks both of you for being with us. First of all, eSports, that's what they're calling this, eSports, right. And games like Fortnite. What's going on here? Okay,
so first off, eSports stands for electronic sports. Essentially, it's just gaming, but in competitive form. And with that, there are leagues, there are teams, there's massive competitions, and there's millions of dollars being put into this new endeavor. Now, you mentioned Fortnite. Now, that's the one that's the biggest one. Is actually on track for being possibly the biggest game of all time. It's essentially a multiplayer survival game, similar to, you've seen the movie Hunger Games.
Yeah.
So you have 100 people on a field, and basically trying to kill each other, and the last person standing is the winner of the competition. Now, just to put it in perspective for you, there are 45 million active users playing Fortnite, which means on average, every month, Fortnite makes $300 million, even though it's a free game.
Wow, that is shocking. Linda, parents say their kids are feeling really a lot of pressure to win in these gaming scenarios. What's your thought about that?
So it's like anything. If you're playing a sport, if you're doing an e-sport like you're talking about, you need to learn how to lose, and you need to learn how to be competitive in a sport, to learn how to play with the rules, and you need to learn how to figure things out as you're going. So one of the concerns that we'll talk about in a minute is the way that parents are helping their kids, and I have a lot of concerns because kids need to critically think. They need to figure out how they can lose or win and what they need to do, and we know that there's some good benefits with gaming, that it does help cognition, it does help perception. There's a lot of downsides to it too. So one of the downsides is that when parents get involved, I think they're getting a little bit too helicopter in their approach.
And Caleb, what do you think about actually paying money for tutors?
You know, that's a semi-controversial topic, but think about it this way. It's no different really than when parents would pay tutors for teach their kids piano lessons. You know, the main thing for me is that make sure that there is a balance. So make sure your kids can play and invest in them playing the games, but they also need to have some other real-world skills as well.
Yeah,
what do you think about it?
I don't think there's any way to do this. I think this is crazy to have tutors and to do this. It's not the same, in my opinion, about music and sports. So when my daughter's in ballet, she's actually doing a physical thing with her body that's going to help her mental health, her physical health, and her emotional health. When kids are playing sports, they're out, they're doing, I know they do team stuff, so I know that they're team, but it's not in the face-to-face where they're getting deep into relationships. So the interaction that they're having is very superficial. I mean, how much interaction do you have when you go with your friend to a movie? You know, that's a social thing, right. But you're not talking to each other. And the same is true, you're playing the game. So this idea that you're somehow getting this really socially connected experience, and then the idea that you would pay for somebody to help these kids, to me, again, is just another layer of too much support for kids when kids need to be figuring things out on their own and playing those things. I think it's ridiculous, and I don't think it's the same at all.
Well, you know, there are a lot of kids out there, you know, 10-year-old boys and some girls too, obviously, who are dreaming of gaming as a career these days, and it's hard to believe, but that is really happening. So, Linda, what is your thought about kids wanting to do this professionally, and when they get older? When I grow up, I want to be a professional gamer.
Right. So let's look at like the NFL. So we're talking about sports, right? How many people actually go on to become part of the NFL? So I think it's great if kids have a dream, but I think they better have a backup career for that, because there probably aren't going to be that many careers that are going to support that, although it's a growing industry and there's a lot of money to be made.
Right. You know, I actually agree with that. I mean, there is a very high burnout rate, first off, with it. You start in your late teens, and then by the time you're on your 25 or so, you're basically done.
It's life.
It's life. You're done. But also, there's a large misconception about the gaming industry as well. You know, in order to be a game tester, for example, instead of just a gamer, you have to get degrees in development and programming as well. So it's not just, I just love to play video games for hours upon hours. You need to be able to write and articulate and look for certain specific issues in the game, and be able to articulate that to a broader scope.
Right. And parents love to be supportive, Linda, of their kids, but we do have to wonder how video games are affecting our kids mentally and physically. I'm sitting there on the couch all the time.
Sedentary all the time. But here's the thing, the biggest reason that parents cite that they're getting these tutors is because they don't want their children to feel like social outcasts.
Right.
And they want to help them so that they feel like they're going to win. And my whole thing is, when did my parents get involved in my social life? When I was in high school, I would have been, first of all, embarrassed. I would not have wanted my parents to be in charge of that. And what I'm concerned about the most is that we are having a generation of kids who do not have resilience because they're not doing things on their own. They're not failing on their own. They're not learning to lose on their own. They're not problem solving and thinking. Now, I know some of these games have critical thinking skills, but not in the way of real life. And so we're seeing a lot of kids who can process quickly with their brains, but they don't know how to do the real life kind of activities and actually talk to people, which is important.
Absolutely. Well, CBN digital expert Caleb Kinchlow and family therapist Linda Mental, thanks so much, both of you, for joining us and giving us your insights on this critical topic for both the young and the old.